It's been a long road for Louis Estimé, a Haitian refugee, to finally reach his goal, the US border. His 5-year odyssey has taken him through the Dominican Republic, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, and the entire length of Central America and Mexico before reaching the California border at Tijuana. He may be resilient, but he doesn't qualify for US asylum and is now faced with the reality of remaining in Mexico.
Before, we would have tried to enter the US illegally, but now we are going to stay in Mexico and try to build a better life.
Hello, welcome back. Today I'm going to be looking at some Haitian immigrants who have decided to remain in Mexico. I know for the most part in these immigration videos they normally just cover the perspective of American border, like the border states like Texas and others that are really affected with the immigration. But we need to also look at the Mexican side, like what's happening in Tijuana and in Mexico City. So we're going to look at two videos. This is the first one of this Asian guy, his story, how he traveled through Central America and ended up in Mexico and at the border. We're going to look at it and then we're going to look at another video. First, I'm very impressed with his Spanish. I don't know how Haitians get Spanish so fast. Like they just moved to Mexico and in like a month, 2 months, they are speaking great Spanish. And it's taken me like 10 years. Still, I don't know Spanish. But enough about me. Let's go back to the video.
This is a good place, much better than my country, where it's very dangerous.
Está muy peligroso.
He's by no means the only Haitian to choose to settle here. For many migrants hoping to reach America but frustrated by the US asylum system, this city becomes their next best option. Indeed, the Haitian community is well established here, a vital factor in the decision among new arrivals to remain. And while he's willing to stay, his legal papers to remain in the country are another issue. Mexico may have pledged asylum status to Haitian refugees waiting along the length of the border, but in practice the papers are hard to attain. Sandra Benavente runs Tijuana's main migrant shelter for Haitian arrivals and says while this community has been welcomed to the city, the authorities need to do more.
Es muy complicado si entran ilegalmente al país.
Things became very complicated if they have entered the country illegally, because when they reach the US border, they can't identify themselves officially, apply for asylum, or even get a job. And while the Mexican government says it works to give them national ID numbers for those things, in practice it doesn't happen.
Sandra's migrant aid organization estimates it takes Mexico's immigration services an average of 9 months to process and grant a Haitian migrant's asylum application.
So this takes 9 months for them to get papers in Mexico. Now, I have seen some videos. We have to speak the truth here. So I've seen some videos of these border cities, border towns like in Tijuana, where they are getting some resistance from the locals, like some Mexicans are not too happy really about illegal immigration, also because it affects them directly. So I have seen some videos of protests. I might cover them because, you know, we just think maybe that this anti-immigration thing is only in American states and southern states, but it happens also in some border states in Mexico. It might be different in central Mexico because they don't have a lot, but we're gonna go to Mexico City after this and see also another story. But let's try to finish the video. It's only like 20 seconds left.
That's a problem for those here who are looking to settle in the city.
If we can't work, we can't achieve a better life. We are waiting on our documents to be able to work. That's the problem.
With or without papers, Louis and his fellow Haitians say they will remain in Mexico. Alistair Baverstock, CGT.
Okay, so that was the video. They decided they tried to enter America. They could not enter America because of their reasons. I guess, were not valid enough for seeking asylum. But now there are some who stay more in central Mexico. These ones are in Tijuana, in the border. But now let's go to Al Jazeera News and look at how the journey basically starts from Central America. It's not a long video, but let's see.
Scores of undocumented migrants and refugees crossing into Chiapas from neighboring Guatemala. They're just some of the roughly 7,000 arrivals in Mexico every day on their way to the U.S. border. As they make their way north, many are penniless. Silvia, a Honduran, says that she and her Haitian boyfriend have been living here for 3 months. Colbert Petit Frère arrived from Haiti 2 months ago and is working in a garage to save money to continue his trip.
I came here and learned new things as a mechanic, but I am only here temporarily.
Now, you have to admire the pace that, okay, they've been in relationship for 3 months, and in those 3 months the guy is already learning to be a mechanic now for 2 months. Like, there is no stopping. Like, they're just doing it so fast, basically, because you have to survive. That's really the case in this situation. Okay, let's continue.
Tláhuac, on the outskirts of Mexico City, is full of Haitians doing what they can to survive, selling food or braiding hair and trimming beards. But not all want to leave, like Milton.
I would stay here if I got the papers. I was living in Chile for years, but I never got my papers. I want to bring my girlfriend here. We're treated well.
It's part of the changing face of migration in Mexico, known as a transit country for undocumented migrants and refugees. Most of these Venezuelans still plan to head north. But a growing number of migrants, roughly 140,000, have applied for refugee status so that they can stay and work in Mexico.
There are opportunities to get ahead here, lots of opportunities, without hurting anyone. I sell my sweets, coffee, and online I sell Venezuelan products.
Migrants who are considering settling here do have a point. In fact, Mexico's largest business association, Coparmex, sees migrants and refugees as a solution to what they complain is a huge deficit of labor in this country, as much as 1.6 million vacancies just last year alone. But filling those jobs with people like these is not as simple as it could be.
Now, there is a lot of, if you've been to Mexico recently or you live in Mexico, you probably know this is a huge population of migrants from Venezuela and other Latin American countries. But I believe Venezuelans are majority of the migrants. Now, I don't know if they ever would admit this on camera or whatever, but normally, for some reason, there is like a beef between Venezuelans and Mexicans, the same way there's a beef between Argentinians and Mexicans. Mexicans know what I'm talking about. They definitely would know, but that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is this is Mexico City, and it is more diverse than other places in Mexico, so I'm sure they're used to immigrants. But the fact that they're being accepted is something that I do really appreciate about Mexicans, because Mexicans, most of the times, whenever they go to different places, they experience a lot of discrimination, a lot of it, whether it's in Europe or, in America. They are normally treated not so well, but when it comes to other immigrants, for the most part, Mexicans are normally very patient. They are very patient and they are kind and welcoming. Now, of course not all, but in some places, like in border states, there's gonna be some tension, but majority of Mexicans are normally very welcoming. I think it's just in their culture, it's in their nature That's why you see lots of immigrants living in Mexico, gringos retiring in Mexico, and there has never been like an uprising where people will be like, okay, you guys have to all go back to your country now, even though that happens a lot in countries that have tons of immigration. Maybe it will happen someday in Mexico, but I doubt it because they are more welcoming. But we'll see. Let's see.
The Mexican government is constantly sending people back to the southern border where they entered the country, even offering Venezuelans money to go home.
What we've seen, for example, in Colombia, what we've seen in Peru and Ecuador is that when a mass number of displacement arrives in country, some sort of humanitarian visa that allows them to work from day one is provided. In Mexico, that is only happening once people claim asylum.
And those permits are hard to obtain. The issue is not Mexico's ability to absorb migrants and refugees eager to work, but rather the government's reluctance to embrace a trend that could benefit locals and newcomers alike. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera.
Okay, so that's basically the video, but it was my perspective. I wanted to also share with you guys the Mexican side of things, because not all immigrants cross Mexico and enter America. Besides what many people would think, not all cross Mexico and enter America. Many stay in Mexico and they start working, they get into relationships, they get married, they stay there. The same way many people also leave America, they leave Canada, and they're gonna be going to retire or live in Mexico, but for some reason they call themselves expats. They don't call themselves immigrants. I wonder why, but you get my point. For people coming to America or Canada, they're called immigrants, but for Canadians and Americans going to Mexico, they call themselves expats. But that's a video for another day. Please consider liking and subscribing and sharing on all the networks. I will see you.
Oh my goodness, all the networks! Wow! All the networks!